Hello, humans. Just doing a dance.
We were synchronized, but I was trying to get synchronized the other way so that I couldn't quite do it.
No mirror images. We must be.
Well, no, we were mirror images. We were going out and then in, and I was trying to go the same direction.
But left is actually left, not right, because this isn't a mirror.
That
or
confuses me.
What I didn't say.
Wait, no, this is left. It is a mirror. To me.
Yours is mirrored?
Mine is mirrored. Is yours not mirrored?
No, I see this on that edge of the screen.
Yeah, wait. Wait, no, yes, no, it's not mirrored, but I'm used to things being mirrored. That's what it is. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I think it should be a mirror, and this should be my left, or this should be my right hand. Yeah. This is my left hand.
Right.
I'm very confused.
That's okay. We're all very confused.
My spatial reasoning wasn't that good.
We're a golden statue of Trump now, so at least we're not that confused.
I can't engage with that information.
It's all good.
So when I emailed you the invite code for the podcast, I almost accidentally emailed you my version of Mamma Mia that I rewrote to be about a book I like. I was like, Control V, set. Oh no, wait, that just that just says something about someone's dad being a lich. Like, I don't think I think that's gonna help.
Oh, that's funny. Oh man, I hadn't really looked at my Etsy listings in a while, and a couple weeks ago someone ordered a couple of the elements. So last week I got them in the mail, and I went to look at the person's address, and then I just glanced at the listing itself, and it said 11 by 14. I listed it as 11 by 14. I was like, I got it printed 9 by 12 because 9 by 12 are the prints I've always sold. And I was like, okay. So I sent out the 9 by 12s with a note saying, I'll get you bigger ones. I'm sorry. And I sent a note to John to be like, tell me you still have these files and that they won't suffer to be blown up, because they're like 300 DPI. So they should be okay to blow up a couple more inches. And he's like, yeah, we got this. But it took me a week to get down there and get them. And I don't have 11 by 14 acetate bags or any of my shipping supplies. Like, I've got 12 by 18 all over the place because of the burnt mermaids. And I listed the 11 by 14s thinking, I'll get on the logistics of that before I get any orders.
Sounds like how they get you.
Yeah. I have engaged with a business planner type human where Jason is paying actual money to like give me direction with my business so that it's less a hobby and more an actual business.
Cool. That's awesome.
It is. It's very unfamiliar. Like, actually, it is familiar, but I've failed so many times that I'm pretending that none of those happened and that this is all new. At some point I will write How Not to Be an Artist, and it will include things like, pitch your best ideas to Dairy Queen cashiers and rule number 2, talent scouts don't go to Denny's at 2 a.m. I have learned this by years and years and years of experimentation. It doesn't happen.
I mean, talent scouts for what?
I don't know. I've always just wanted somebody to walk up to me and be like, you! I will pay you to paint. whatever you want to paint. And then we'll both get rich because your paintings are, I don't know, marketable. But I'll do that part, and you can just do the painting part. I think Jason would do that for me if he didn't have to spend all his time working to pay the bills that I'm not paying because I don't do that part. So, yeah. So I'll probably end up with like a mission statement and a plan and a logo. And she doesn't know dick about YouTube, though. I'll still have to keep muddling along with that one. Did you watch my Willow rant?
No.
You should watch my Willow rant. I was so proud of me. I had to actually go find footage because there was no such thing as the GIFs that I wanted to use.
Will it be speaking as your sibling, will it be a new rant to me?
Maybe a little around the edges. The shape of it will be familiar.
just checking.
I was trying to keep it light and fluffy, and I talk about like how I sort my clothes at one point. It meanders. I don't know if that's charming or obnoxious. The only feedback I've gotten has been very polite.
I've never known whether meandering was charming or obnoxious either.
Right? I think the point is to find the tribe of people who think that your particular brand of meandering is charming. Like, I could keep more focused, but that would take a lot more effort.
Yeah, that level of effort and energy I don't think is worth it.
Right?
Except in situations where you absolutely have to play normal, so to speak.
Yep. It's on brand. How's that? My meandering is very on brand. Oh. Oh, Lorien, I was in my youth in the West. I meant to grab the Silmarillion so that I could read that sentence to you about Olorin.
Olorin sounds like a blood pressure medication. I can't unhear that now that I've thought it. Talk to your doctor about Olorin.
Harry makes that point in this long-ass rant essay about the American medical establishment and how all of the drugs that they advertise at you sound like characters from Lord of the Rings. Or planets from Star Wars. He's done both of those. I get them mixed up. I know that one of his rants, it's planets from Star Wars because his hypothetical woman who's being advertised at is wondering if Endor is right for her.
There is also a challenge where you have to identify whether a series of words are antidepressant medications or elves from the Silmarillion.
I dog-eared this page. Why did I dog-ear this page? What quote? Oh, I do not love the bright sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory. I love only that which they defend. I love that quote. How far did we get?
Good question. Let me pull up my book. Oh God, I'm not this flexible. Help. If we were editing these, I'd edit in like the crash and cat meowing sound. All right, where were we?
Okay, I want you to watch Vanadium because I put in a thing at the very end that makes me laugh my ass off. Like even I had to there was this image of a wombat that I wanted to use because I found it and it was fucking perfect for something, but I never did find what it was perfect for, so I just threw it up there and then I went through the sound effects and grabbed the most incongruous one and it's so fucking awesome. It brings me joy.
I will have to check that out.
And you too, mythical interweb viewer.
Oh, I found it. Unlike they were, and yet also much akin. The end
Wow,
of the
you read like 2 pages, you poor darling. We must have been talking about all kinds of mad shit. Because we were like here when I was done reading, and now we're here.
We're not making fast progress.
No.
I think we also started late, I want to say.
That's very true. A whole day late.
And $1 short.
I am not remotely interested in rushing. This is one of my happy places. They walked on in silence for a while, passing like gray and green shadows under the old trees, their feet making no sound. Above them many birds sang, and the sun glistened on the polished roof of dark leaves in the evergreen woods of Ithilien. Sam had taken no part in the conversation, though he had listened, and at the same time he had attended with his keen hobbit ears to all the soft woodland noises about them. Have you noticed Tolkien never mentions once anywhere that anyone's elves are ears are pointed?
You know, I hadn't really been thinking about it, but yeah, he doesn't, does he?
Nope. Elves and hobbits and the rest, nope.
I wonder where it came from.
Okay, so my brain just went to Hex with a swiftness. Because Pratchett mentions once that the dwarves on Discworld have pointed ears. And because my brain was suddenly on Discworld, I wanted to ask you if you knew what the thing like a broken umbrella covered in herrings right behind the thing like a beach ball that says PARP every 14 minutes could be a reference to. Is it a real world thing? Or is it an umbrella covered in herrings?
I think it's an umbrella covered in herrings. Mind you, I don't know a lot about like the sort of 1980s, early 90s programming that he's referencing, but I'm pretty sure that Earth computers have never included herrings as part of the works.
No. And someone mentioned the fish tank screensaver, but there's an actual fish tank on Hex that it lowers to, and an hourglass on a spring, so it has nothing to do with the hourglass. We know what the ram skulls are. It took me years to figure out the small religious pictures.
Oh, icons.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But and then I heard the story about the teddy bear. It was a garbled story, and I'm probably not telling it right, but at one point in the 90s, Microsoft put out a patch or something, some kind of a program to fix some bugs in the operating program in the OS. And the icon for it was a teddy bear. And if you deleted it because you didn't recognize it because it looked stupid, then the computer would stop working.
Ah.
Or something to that effect. So that's what the FTP from Hogfather could very well be a reference to.
You know, I mean, you know what FTP stands for, right? I didn't know this the last time I read Hogfather.
No, I don't.
It stands for File Transfer Protocol. It's how you transfer information between computers. Or one of the ways that you can.
Damn it, I meant FTB. Fuzzy Teddy Bear.
I still think it's probably also an FTP joke.
I think it probably is too.
See, that makes me think that the umbrella covered in herrings does mean something, but I don't know what.
Plus, yeah, and part of my brain will always be nagging at me that it is covered in herrings. They might be red. Like, they could have written that in with no meaning whatsoever to make the audience scratch their heads for decades.
That would be a very Pratchett thing to do.
But it would also be very Pratchett for him to know some obscure piece of computer drama from the mid-90s that he wrote in there just because.
It would. Just because.
Could go either way. If you know So he's listening to the soft woodland noises. One thing he had noted, that in all the talk the name of Gollum had not once come up. He was glad, though he felt that it was too much to hope that he would never hear it again. He soon became aware also that though they walked alone, there were many men close at hand, not only Damrod and Mablung flitting in and out of the shadows ahead, but others on either side, all making their swift secret way to some appointed place. Once, looking suddenly back, as if some prickle of the skin told him that he was watched from behind, he thought he caught a brief glimpse of a small dark shape slipping behind a tree trunk. He opened his mouth to speak and shut it again, because Sam is so much smarter in the book.
So much smarter.
So smart. I'm not sure of it. What?
Me. I was just complaining because I messed up my extremely simple knitting project. This is a washcloth. It is not rocket surgery, but I messed it up and just had to take out 2 rows. Anyway.
Is the counterpart of rocket surgery brain science?
Yes. You know what's funny is I say rocket surgery so much that I don't hear myself say it anymore.
At dinner tonight, we were talking about Animaniacs, the new ones we've been watching, and one of the stories took place on the Occident Express, and I was like, "Guys, do you know that joke? Did you recognize that was a joke?" And they were like, "No," and I was like, "Occident is the opposite of Orient," and they were like, "How can Orient have an opposite? Like Orient the far east and Occident the far west," and they were like, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah, not everybody knows that. It's like so many people know what a zenith is, but nobody knows what a nadir is." And Blue looked at me and went, "Nobody knows what a zenith is, Robin."
I mean, he's not wrong.
You're just a nerd.
Look. It's a sorry state of affairs when all of your children are old enough to drag you.
Yeah, that's a thing. I got really excited when I was learning about astronomy once, and I figured out that the bunny curse in Bedknobs and Broomsticks actually is logical, because it's filigree, apogee, pedigree, perigee. Filigree for DNA, and apogee for over here, and then pedigree for descent, and then perigee for the other end of the other part of the it works. It's like, I'm gonna flip your descent and your DNA.
Oh. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I just read a book that had some real weird, upsetting rabbits in it. So you said bunny curse, and I was like, ugh.
I can't remember more than like one of the verses of the Mummy Bunnies song. Do you have it written down somewhere?
Somewhere I do.
If you ever find it,
I will send it to you.
We will make a present of it to someone who's good at writing music, and then we will all be able to sing the Mummy Bunnies song. Fear the Mummy Bunnies. Unlike the ones alive, it's not that they keep being born. It's that they never die.
It's just like a particularly I have affectionate memories of mummy bunnies, but just right at this moment, I'm just like,
I'm sorry. I didn't even ask. What? I'm sorry you were traumatized by bunnies recently.
I mean, I'm like, humorously traumatized, but still traumatized. There's a concept in this book, and this is a spoiler for anyone who's not read Paladin Strength by T. Kingfisher. If you're planning to read it, fast forward a few minutes. So I'm about to spoil something for you. There's a part where the heroes are like walking down a road, and they start seeing rabbits around them. And one of them is like, "Oh, we should ask for information." And someone says, "Who? There's no one around." And she goes, "I think that's a warren mind." So basically this entire warren of rabbits is one hive mind.
Oh. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's creepy.
It's so creepy. It's really upsetting. And then like she's like, let's see if they have a speaker, and they have like one rabbit that the Warren grew with like a human throat so it could talk. It's so... You can see why I'm freaked out about rabbits right now.
Yeah, no, that's not cool,
I
man.
don't like it. I don't like it at all.
No.
It's not even the most horrifying thing in the book. It wasn't even a horror. It wasn't a horror novel. It was a romance.
I have frequently been traumatized by things that weren't supposed to be horror. Of course, I grew up in the 80s where all the kids' movies were like, no, we're not horror. We're just going to tell a story about Phoebe Cates' dad pretending to be Santa and getting stuck in the chimney and dying.
Yeah, that was the weirdest part of Gremlins. This is why we never get through more than 2 pages.
It's totally my fault. I've got Mommy Benny stuck in my head and it doesn't even have a tune. I'm not sure of it, Sam said to himself. And why should I remind them of the old villain if they choose to forget him? I wish I could. So they passed on until the woodlands grew thinner and the land began to fall more steeply. Then they turned aside again to the right and came quickly to a small river in a narrow gorge. It was the same stream that trickled far above out of the round pool, now grown to a swift torrent, leaping down over many stones in a deep cloven bed, overhung with ilex and dark boxwoods. Looking west, they could see, below them in a haze of light, lowlands and broad meads, and glinting far off in the westering sun, the wide waters of the Anduin. How big a river is the Anduin, do you think? Are we talking like, can you see both shores, or...
Probably depends on where you are along it, but I was thinking like size of the Mississippi, probably.
Mississippi's fucking huge.
They call it the Great River for a reason.
Right?
The Anduin, I mean, I don't think they call the Mississippi that.
I thought, I don't know, I kind of figured it was narrower than that, but my Colorado brain thinks of any river wider than a room as being like absolute fantasy.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. Incidentally, these descriptions are reminding me very much of I'm reading Howard Pyle's Robin Hood to myself again, because comfort food of book reading, comfort book. There we go. But it keeps making me laugh because my mind's a lot dirtier than it was when I was reading it as a teenager, and there's so much accidental homoeroticism. I assume it's accidental.
I mean, I think that's debatable.
Sup with me, my bonny chuck, for thou art the lustiest lad I hath ever seen. And you're like, uh-huh. And I do love thee as a brother. And you're like, as a brother.
Look,
as
I'm
a
not
frat
judging.
As a frat brother? Here, alas, I must do you a discourtesy, said Faramir. I hope you will pardon it to one who has so far made his orders give way to courtesy as not to slay you or to bind you. But it is a command that no stranger, not even one of Rohan that fights with us, shall see the path we now go with open eyes. I must blindfold you. As you will, said Frodo. Even the elves do likewise at need, and blindfolded we cross the borders of fair Lothlorien. Gimli the dwarf took it ill, but the hobbits endured it. Way to cast shade. Like, we didn't, bitch. Elf and the dwarf had themselves a hissy fit, but hobbits are cool.
Everybody was blindfolded. Not all of us complained about it, Gimli.
It is to no place so fair that I shall lead you, said Faramir. But I am glad that you will take this willingly and not by force. He called softly, and immediately Mablung and Damrod stepped out of the trees and came back to him. Blindfold these guests, said Faramir. Securely, but not so as to discomfort them. Do not tie their hands. They will give their word not to try and see. I could trust them to shut their eyes of their own accord, but eyes will blink if the feet stumble. Lead them so that they do not falter. It's a bit bipolar in that entire exchange, like, do I have to force you? No? Well, I know that. I know that you would just keep your eyes shut if I asked you to. Aren't you glad I hadn't killed you yet?
I mean, yeah, a little bit.
Just,
I hope you'll appreciate that I haven't killed you and not complain when I blindfold you, even though I know I wouldn't have to, except that, reflexively you might accidentally open your eyes.
I trust you so completely. And I could have killed you.
Yeah, what's that called? Favor sharking?
Oh, what's his name? Damn it. I was going to say something clever. Guardians of the Galaxy. What's his butt? Yondu. It's Yonduing. I've never tasted Hobbit before. With green scarves, the two guards now bound up the hobbits' eyes and drew their hoods down almost to their mouths. Then quickly they took each one by the hand and went on their way. All that Frodo and Sam knew of this last mile of the road, they learned from guessing in the dark. After a little, they found that they were on a path descending steeply. Soon it grew so narrow that they went in single file, brushing a stony wall on either side. Their guards steered them from behind with hands laid firmly on their shoulders. Now and again they came to rough places and were lifted from their feet for a while and then set down again. Always the noise of the running water was on their right hand, and it grew nearer and louder. At length they were halted. Quickly Mablung and Damrod turned them about several times, and they lost all sense of direction. They climbed upwards a little. It seemed cold, and the noise of the stream had become faint. Then they were picked up and carried down many steps, and round a corner. Suddenly they heard the water again, loud now, rushing and splashing. All round them it seemed, and they felt a fine rain on their hands and cheeks. At last they were set on their feet once more. For a moment they stood so, half fearful, blindfold, not knowing where they were. And no one spoke. Then came the voice of Faramir close behind. Let them see, he said. The scarves were removed and their hoods drawn back, and they blinked and gasped. They stood on a wet floor of polished stone, the doorstep, as it were, of a rough-hewn gate of rock opening dark behind them. But in front a thin veil of water was hung, so near that Frodo could have put an outstretched arm into it. It faced westward. The level shafts of the setting sun behind beat upon it, and the red light was broken into many flickering beams of ever-changing color. It was as if they stood at the window of some elven tower, curtained with threaded jewels of silver and gold, and ruby, sapphire, and amethyst, all kindled with an unconsuming fire. I want to go there. At least, by good chance, we come at the right hour to reward you for your patience, said Faramir. This is the window of the sunset, Henneth Anun, fairest of all the falls of Ithilien, land of many fountains. Few strangers have ever seen it, but there is no kingly hall behind to match it. Enter now and see. See, I think that later on, he totally ought to hire some of the dwarves from the Lonely Mountain to turn it into a kingly hall.
That'd
That's
be
my
pretty darn cool.
right?
Yes. Also, the dog is losing her mind, if you were wondering why I'm muted.
I heard some of it. What's going on? Postman?
She's a ninny.
Yeah,
Probably neighbors are walking by outside.
Shippo is not so difficult to live with. Hey, Shippo! 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 Hi! Yo.
I've been watching Evan and Caitlin. Do you watch them at all?
Oh, yeah. Jube.
Jube. And they just do the like auto reader for her voice. Give me ham.
Do you like it? It's fine.
Do not trust.
Oh. Yep.
Yeah, I think I just started watching their videos like this past week or so, and they're fun.
Last week I went looking for pictures and things of Sonia, and I saw all of the pictures of Shippo as a kitten, and he is funny because his face hasn't really changed size, just his body behind it has gotten bigger and bigger. Kind of like Haley Joel Osment, frankly. I have the cat version of Haley Joel Osment.
Oh, goodness.
Even as he spoke, and it's my new headcanon that they're totally going to have the dwarves make a kingly hall out of Henethanun. That's Tolkien never said it didn't happen.
It's true.
Even as he spoke, the sun sank and the fire faded in the flowing water. They turned and passed under the low, forbidding arch. At once they found themselves in a rock chamber, wide and rough, with an uneven, stooping roof. A few torches were kindled and cast a dim light on the glistening walls. Many men were already there. Others were still coming in. What?
Oh, my brain auto-corrected. You said uneven stooping roof, but my brain auto-finished the word as uneven stupid roof.
Yeah, well, that's what it gets for being uneven. A few torches were kindled and cast a dim light on the glistening walls. Many men were already there. Others were still coming in by twos and threes through a dark, narrow door on one side. As their eyes grew accustomed to the gloom, the hobbits saw that the cave was larger than they had guessed, and was filled with great store of arms and victuals. How do you pronounce victuals?
Vittles.
Are you sure? I thought that was like a colloquialism.
Let me find out. I think so, but I'll just Google it real quick.
Right? That's like pioneer speak to call it victuals.
Let's see. Definition by Merriam-Webster. It's pronounced vittles.
Damn it.
The pioneers just spelled it differently.
They spelled it phonetically. Fine. Great store of arms and victuals.
It just sounds weird.
It sounds stupid. It sounds like they're eating cat food. Or snack food. You say victuals and it sounds like Staples. You say victuals and it sounds like Starburst.
I'm just reminded of, I think it's a Shel Silverstein poem. Life is not always beer and skittles, a treasure trove of love and victuals. And I always used to read it love and victuals and be like, that doesn't rhyme.
Make any sense. Have you seen the picture? I think I've seen it go around Consolation a couple of times of a big bowl of candy. And there's a Post-it note on it saying, whoever did this, you're a monster.
Yes, and it's like Skittles, M&Ms, and Reese's Pieces all mixed together, right? We had a candy, like one of those motion sensing candy dispensers at the office when it was open.
Mm.
And it was supposed to be for, like, visitors, people, job applicants, but of course everyone would just come by and rate it. And the office manager got mad, so one day he filled it with a mixture of Skittles and M&Ms.
Freaking sadistic, man.
Some men just want to watch the world burn. I don't know.
Yeah. Cruel. So cruel.
Also, it did not stop anyone from eating it. We just got wise and sorted them out.
Really good. Some people like faux fruit with their faux chocolate. Although the textures would be a bit.
I'm not into that.
I'm not into any of it.
No, not one bit.
Oh. Arms and victuals. Merriam-Webster said it. Well, here is our refuge, said Faramir. Not a place of great ease, but here you may pass the night in peace. It is dry, at least, and there is food, victuals, but no fire. At one time the water flowed down through this cave and out of the arch, but its course was changed further up the gorge by workmen of old, and the stream sent down in a fall of doubled height over the rocks far above. All the ways into this grot were then sealed against the entry of water or aught else, all save one.
We also talk about the word grot. Like, okay, grotto is still
sure.
kind of a weird word, but like doesn't sound like something that you should be upset to say in public.
Yeah, yeah, grot does sound a bit like a piece of anatomy, doesn't it?
Did you hear about Tim? He came down with the grot.
Ooh. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's either a disease or it's something where it's like, honey, you can't talk about your grot in public.
Shut up, Mom! I got kicked in the grot! It's a bit like uvula when it comes to non-dirty words that sound dirty.
Mm-hmm. Angina.
Yeah. So. But Faramir can say grot. Because he's perfect.
I dispute that, but let's continue.
There are now but two ways out. That passage yonder by which you entered blindfold, and through the window curtain into a deep bowl filled with knives of stone. Now rest a while until the evening meal is set. Again, he's being good cop, bad cop all at once. Like, try to escape. Go on. Knives of stone.
I feel like Boromir used to be the bad cop, but now he's gone, so Faramir's trying to be both.
He's not very good at it.
No.
Very inconsistent. The hobbits were taken to a corner and given a low bed to lie on if they wished. Meanwhile, men busied themselves about the cave, quietly and in orderly quickness. Light tables were taken from the walls and set up on trestles and laden with gear. This was plain and unadorned for the most part, but all well and fairly made. Round platters, bowls, and dishes of glazed brown clay or turned boxwood, smooth and clean. Here and there was a cup or basin of polished bronze, and a goblet of plain silver was set by the captain's seat in the middle of the inmost table. Faramir went about among the men, questioning each as he came in a soft voice. Some came back from the pursuit of the Southrons. Others, left behind as scouts near the road, came in latest. All the Southrons had been accounted for, save only the great Mummock. What happened to him, none could say. Of the enemy, no movement could be seen. Not even an orc spy was abroad. You saw and heard nothing, Anborn? Faramir asked of the latest comer. What's wrong with you? Nothing. Well, no, Lord, said the man. No orc, at least. But I saw, or thought I saw, something a little strange. It was getting deep dusk when the eyes make things greater than they should be. So perhaps it may have been no more than a squirrel. Sam pricked up his ears at this. Yet if so, it was a black squirrel, and I saw no tail. 'Twas like a shadow on the ground, and it whisked behind a tree trunk when I drew nigh, and went up aloft as swift as any squirrel could. You will not have us slay wild beasts for no purpose, and it seemed no more, so I tried no arrow. It was too dark for sure shooting anyway, and the creature was gone into the gloom of the leaves in a twinkling. But I stayed for a while, for it seemed strange, and then I hastened back. I thought I heard the thing hiss at me from high above as I turned away. A large squirrel, maybe? Perhaps under the shadow of the unnamed, some of the beasts of Mirkwood are wandering hither to our woods. They have black squirrels there, 'tis said. They taste awful.
Should have bought a squirrel.
I just read Little House in the Big Woods to Avi. I was thinking Hobbit, and Hobbit was the first book I read to him, and Little House is the second, and we just finished it. He really likes it.
Awesome.
Although at one point, Laura slaps Mary, and Pa immediately whips her with a belt. And I paused, and I was like, this is very old-fashioned parenting. Aren't you glad? Are you glad we don't parent this way anymore? And I didn't get an answer, and I was like, Avi? And he went, what? Like, that was about the most inappropriate response to me being like, so I should get a belt? Like,
I mean,
it's too late.
First of all, no, you should not. But second of all, I don't know. I feel like we were just talking about Faramir being like, aren't you glad I didn't kill you? And then you're like, aren't you glad I don't beat you with It's not funny, but it's a little funny.
You feel really uncomfortable. Like, she's getting, Dad's beating her. Like, you do recognize that this is not an exaggeration, but definitely well out of the realms of what, like, I don't know where I was going with it. I just wanted him to be like, yeah, haha, the olden days, keep reading, Mom. And instead he was like, what? Like, okay, fine, slap me around then. Clearly someone's getting slapped. I can't remember how racist they get. I remember them being quite, but I don't remember how soon. And I might have to stop reading the series before we get to that point.
I would maybe like pre-skim them because I think it's quite soon.
I think you're right. Because the next one is on the prairie. And they're only on the prairie because all the First Peoples are being deposed, deported, killed off and thrown away, shoved away, and
Oh geez, it's 7:57.
Hang on, we can low beds, saw and heard nothing, large squirrel. We're only a paragraph from the end.
Okay.
They have black squirrels there. Perhaps, said Faramir, but that would be an ill omen if it were so. We do not want the escapes of Mirkwood and Ithilien. Sam fancied that he gave a swift glance toward the hobbits as he spoke, but Sam said nothing. For a while he and Frodo lay back and watched the torchlight, and the men moving to and fro, speaking in hushed voices. Then, suddenly, Frodo fell asleep. Sam struggled with himself, arguing this way and that. He may be all right, he thought, and then he may not. Fair speech may hide a foul heart. He yawned. I could sleep for a week and I'd be better for it. What can I do if I do keep awake? Me all alone and all these great men about? Nothing, Sam Gamgee. But you've got to keep awake all the same. And somehow he managed it. The light faded from the cave door, and the grey veil of falling water grew dim and was lost in gathering shadow. Always the sound of the water went on, never changing its note, morning or evening or night. It murmured and whispered of sleep. Sam stuck his knuckles in his eyes. And that's the, at least there's a gap. And we made it another 2 pages. I would love your feedback on any of my YouTube videos. I work really hard. Not in a very timely fashion, but I do work very hard. And I'll let you know how it goes with the business consultant, because it might be nice to be moving in a direction rather than just sort of floating along hoping to get discovered by the world, my tribe.
Well, I am really excited to hear how it goes.
Yeah, me too. And fortunately, there's not a contract involved, so if nothing happens, we can both be like, that was an experience.
If nothing else, it'll be an experience.
Exactly. That's what we're here for.
Yep, yep.
The numbers are dropping. That means I get to see you at some point, right?
Eventually.
Yeah, we're not gonna rush. Not gonna fall over on the final lap.
Nay.
But I do miss you.
Hang on one second. I have not done this before, but I want to try something. Wave goodbye to everyone, but don't remove yourself from the thing. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. See you next week.